Hi, welcome back. Joining us now, we have a very special guest, the Fargo Police Chief, Dave Zabolski. Welcome back to our show. You've been here before, so nice to have you in studio.
Thanks. Yeah, great to be here in person.
Yeah, after the year we've had. But a lot of people very concerned nationally and even on a local level. We see it on the news, crime statistics. And so looking at them nationally, they seem to be up, and so a lot of people are wondering what is happening in Fargo, and some people are kind of nervous about some stuff.
Sure. Again, here in Fargo, we've got I think some increased violent crime that may be something the community's not used to. Might be part of the national piece that's taking place in a lot of other cities, but our department has really taken a hard focus on addressing violent crime. The small percentage of persons in our community who are responsible for a large amount of that crime, and then really focusing in on that. So not only along with department operations, but our data collection and our ability to drill down and talk more specifically about crimes that concern our community. Because while it's reported and it causes a lot of fear, I think putting context with it, how many of these cases have been resulted in arrest and are cleared, and how many are still being investigated, is also important for the community.
So I think that's a good point you just made, the context of all of it. What would you say to someone who just comes up to you on the street, they see you, hey Chief, I'm concerned about some of the things that I'm hearing going on in the community. Kind of what would your response to them be?
Well, I think that in any community you're going to find a level of crime. From my experience in being in other cities, that Fargo is by far, for the size of the city, a very safe city. Although, the amount of violent crime in general is not acceptable, and we would like to have zero. And so that's our goal. So I think it's more about understanding what Fargo looks like compared to other cities, but also what's the expectations here in Fargo, right? Our local community doesn't want to have any of this stuff going on, and we agree with that, and we're partnering with them to address that.
Yeah, I think that's because the FM area has such a strong community sense that when something bad does happen, it really hits.
Sure.
Because that's just not the Fargo feeling, or the general attitude of the majority of people that live here.
Right. Yeah, you get a violent crime, and it definitely rocks neighborhoods and rocks communities, because they wouldn't expect things like that to happen here.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And so every year they release a statistics report on the crimes that happen. And I've looked through the report multiple times. It's everything that happens in the city. Why is that report released, and what do you want people to know when looking through it?
Well, I think going back historically, the report was broader in scale in terms of reporting on certain crimes. We have gone several years ago to incident-based reporting, but we haven't put all of the incident-based statistics out for the community to absorb as well. So one of the transitions we're making in crime data transparency is putting all that information out, but also drilling down. So for instance, shootings and shots fired, which many people confuse. A shooting means someone actually got shot. Shots fired is someone fired a gun at a building, a car, or a person, but that either the property was hit or nobody was hit. So while those are both serious crimes, it's important for people to recognize the difference between the two, and then our department is now tracking those individually. So year to date we've had 5 shooting incidents, 5 incidents where persons have been shot. In 3 of those cases we've made arrests, and those people are in custody. We've also had 2 homicides now year to date. On one of those homicides, we have that person arrested and in custody, and we're working on the other case. Shots fired is a little different. We've got year-to-date 23 of those incidents, and we have made arrests in 10 of those cases. And within those 23, it's important for the community to understand that 4 of those they were accidental. Like, I'm in my house handling my gun, I discharged it, and it went into the ceiling, and there were some issues. So, again, getting a better feel for what those just numbers alone actually mean, and again, really working with our community to identify the perpetrator. So we're looking at multiple things so that we can provide greater context to the community.
Multiple layers, and I hear this a lot, and I just kind of want you to reiterate it here. It takes a community to keep everybody safe.
Well, it's a team effort. I mean, public safety is a team effort. It cannot just be the police department on its own. Our department is chock full of really committed, dedicated personnel, both sworn and civilian, who are trying to keep our community safe, solve crime. But we need folks in the community to work with us as well, to be willing witnesses and victims and help us connect dots on some of these crimes, because again, we know that there's only a small percentage of people in the city that are involved in any large amount of crime. And from a larger perspective, 20% of your suspects account for 50% of your crime. So if we can hone in on that, and in certain locations where for whatever reason we have repetitive crime, getting those people and identifying who they are so they don't victimize someone else is an important goal for our department as well.
All right, Chief, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, coming up here on today's show, we're going to have your daily dose of motivation right after the break.